Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, pitching the second in I think, triple hitter today. Today I have with me Nichole Myers, Chief Underwriter at Ethos. Nichole, how's it going today? Thank you for
It's
coming.
going. It's not bad. It's a little rainy here. I'm in Virginia Beach actually, and
Oh,
monsoon season has started.
so
So
so New York, so LinkedIn says New York City,
LinkedIn
uh,
says New York City. Yeah.
but you live in Virginia, or you're visiting Virginia?
I moved around a bit actually. So I lived and worked in the New York area. I lived in the Chicago area, and I have very recently found myself in the Mid-Atlantic.
Okay, so if you're a big city person, Chicago and New York, uh,
How?
how is it going in Virginia?
How's it going? It is a sprawling suburb of 500,000 people. So I am exploring all of the Pokeball places that I can find. I'm a little bored, I'm not gonna lie.
And it's been how long in Virginia now?
Just about a year now.
Okay,
Just about
so
a year.
what you're saying, like inside baseball, within a year you'll be in San Francisco, New York, or Chicago?
Yeah, I think I got about 2 years in me before I jump again. We bought a house and we're remodeling it, so that's the
Mhm.
thing that's keeping me insane.
Oh,
But we're closing in on the finish line, which means like now I gotta move again. Now what do I
uh,
do?
I totally get it. That is precisely how my girlfriend works too. We always give the guest. Thank you for sharing that. We always give the guest a chance to give the elevator pitch. What
Yeah.
is what is Ethos?
What is Ethos? So Ethos Technologies, we are a digital distributor and a TPA for life insurance carriers. And we're actually an incredible marketing organization as well. So we do all of that front end magic that needs to be done in order to bring customers into the pipeline. And we've created a really unique waterfall that allows us to basically get 90% of our applicants an offer um, in a product same day, with about 10% of individuals going out to what we have as manual underwriting. And we do that in a really slick experience. Average app time is around 6.5 minutes. We try to do right by our customers always, and by our carriers as well. So we also do the underwriting for our carriers. We have a full underwriting shop that we've grown from 2 to 60 in the last few years. And we administer on behalf of our carriers. So we support both direct to consumer sales. So that classic, like, I just want a policy and I'm just going to go and I don't want to talk to anybody, that classic D2C, direct to consumer sale. But we also have a really wonderful agent experience that we've built. So we partner directly with other distributors and we can support their agents in a really slick digital fashion in order for them to take care of those sales that might not be the biggest sales, right? But they're super important nonetheless. So we're growing in our direct to consumer business. It was our original founding mission when the company came together in 2016, but we're also growing exponentially in our agent sold channel as well. So we do a whole lot.
All right, super interesting. Okay, so as I was sharing before we started recording, and as the listeners know, I'm a PNC guy. I don't often talk about my life background. So I did, in my pre-insurance life, I did get recruited by one of the large life carriers to sell life part-time.
All right.
And I did successfully get Iowa Life licensed, and I succeeded in selling literally zero policies. Right, it was one of those, we'll pay for the license and then call all your friends and family. I grew up abroad, so I
Yeah.
had no natural network really,
Yeah.
and I quickly discovered that the product that I was hawking was good product but very expensive, and I
Mm,
just didn't have a natural network to buy it, nor did I have access. Even though like, they did not forbid me from selling other people's products. I also had no guidance on how to get access, right?
Yeah.
So basically,
Yeah.
I'm hawking whole life from a very expensive perspective without a natural market and part time at like 23 years old, 24 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and maybe I would have been successful selling term,
Yeah.
but I had no
Such
access to those markets. Um,
such a different sale, right?
so
Yeah.
so so one thing that I did learn is that, well, number one, it's miraculous that that didn't scare me away from the industry, and PNC
True.
ended up getting its claws in me, and I love it. But number two is that nobody buys life insurance. It's something that's sold historically, right? It's a deeply needed product
Yeah.
that is not mandated by the state like PNC.
Hmm.
So those who can sell life do really well. It's hard to sell life. And the second step of my life journey. So now fast forward to like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years into my PNC journey, I end up as a sales manager for Allied Insurance, now Nationwide, but
Wow.
Nationwide's
Yeah.
independent
Yeah.
arm. And I'm managing Northern California as an inside sales manager. So I'm managing the small relationships in Northern California.
Mhm.
And we have this big push to get the agents to sell a little bit of life. And my God, it was like pulling teeth to
It's really
get
hard.
like
Yeah.
a single life policy out of a PNC guy. Uh, and I, by the way, I'm a big insurance, a big insurance education nerd. I've got my CPCU
Mhm.
and other designations. At some point, so I had done CPCU, I had done 9 other designations in PNC. My girlfriend and I both got started on CLU,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
that was the test that did me in.
The
I
Chartered Life Underwriter, huh? That's the
yeah,
one.
yeah, the second test in the CLU program, I remember sitting on a Saturday, and I was no longer a Nationwide. I was at American Modern now, which did not have a life arm. I mean, I'm sure that Munich
Yeah.
Re has, but not American Modern itself.
Right.
So I remember being at a Starbucks in Northern California, studying CLU, and then going, Tony, what are you doing with your life? The company you work for doesn't even
Yeah.
have life.
What
So
am I
I
doing?
got up, I threw the book away in the trash, and I moved on from life forever. Uh, so
Oh.
um, with Nationwide, one really cool feature that we had at the time was basically like accelerated underwriting
Mhm.
based on your saliva, right? So like quick
Oh yeah.
saliva
I
swap,
remember
and
that.
we could very quickly, I don't know, a week give
Yeah.
you a quote for whole life, and that was kind of our
Good
claim
old
to fame.
oral fluids
Yeah.
test.
So
Yeah.
the world has changed radically since then, right? But basically, points that I was trying to make is life is hard to sell, and the process of life historically is
Yeah.
literally like a nurse coming to your house to draw blood, and
Yeah.
then we take weeks to get back to you.
Ugh,
So
yeah. I know.
so the new world now with Ethos,
Yeah. We don't do that. That's not what we
what
do,
does it
right?
look like?
Yeah.
And what kind of policies do you guys support? Do you guys support
Yeah.
the full feature, the full set of life policies?
Yeah, so all great questions, right? So our value prop is that we're fluidless, totally fluidless, like no oral fluid test.
Fluidless. That's fantastic. Okay.
Fluidless.
I love that.
Actually, my very good friend used to hawk those fluid tests, as it turns out. It was still invasive. It was still a problem. So Ethos is a completely fluidless process. So there's
Okay.
no urine, there's no one knocking on your door. There's, no exam, no examiner pretending they know what your weight is and answering
Okay.
questions.
So no medical exam at all.
No, none
Okay.
of that.
Even
We
for whole life.
so even for whole life,
Okay.
and there is a portion of our population that will experience traditional underwriting in the sense of we'll order records
You said
on them.
about 10%.
About 10%, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll ask them more questions, right? So we might go out to them directly and ask them more questions. We might order medical records on them. And, the last 10 years in this industry, there's just been an explosion of our ability to get to the data, get to medical data. And that's really our core value prop, right? Before I had a, a big kind of circuitous route around the industry, but I also launched early electronic health record product when I was at MIB. So I'm deep in the medical data. And we've really been able to exploit medical data to get to an accurate review of individuals to get them approved. And that's really what we've thrown our heart and soul into making better every day. That does allow us to offer a really wide range of products. So we have term in the very classic sense of term, right? Accessible, easy, variety of term lengths, 10, 15, 20, all of them, right? We have IUL on our platform, and we're doing some really cool stuff in that space. And we have whole life and we have final expense products as well. We have an SIT that we can offer. So that full complement of products, which is still expanding, really allows us to get people covered in something. You might not always get that first product you thought you were going to get at that, $3 million face you were hoping for, but you're absolutely going to walk away with coverage and you're going to do it without somebody putting a needle in your arm, right? That's
So really, really modernized the
very
life
much,
distribution and underwriting piece.
very much
One thing
so.
that I found really interesting, at least coming from my PNC background, I've had plenty of insurtechs on the podcast who are modernizing distribution. I've had
Hmm.
plenty of insurtechs in the podcast who are modernizing underwriting.
Yeah.
It's not often that the same insurtech
Yeah.
is playing both distribution and underwriting. So
Yeah.
that is a big thing to bite, right?
It
It's
is
a
a big,
bit
but it's the reason why I'm here.
okay.
I had a really unique start to my insurance career. I swore I would never go into insurance. I
Of
actually
course.
grew 15 minutes south of Hartford. Okay.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Every boring adult I knew worked in
Of
insurance.
course.
And so I swore I would never go into insurance. So I went into social work instead, which was absolutely
Very,
brilliant.
very noble of you.
Very noble. I made it about 3 years. I said, you know what? I got to go back to school and get another degree. And my friend was like, hey, come to work at MetLife in the call center. You'll get regular hours, you get benefits. I was going to make more money than I was making doing the work I was doing. Um, and I fell in love with insurance, right? I actually ended up answering phones for agents.
So
So
what
we
what was it?
agent back office.
So what
Hmm?
was it about insurance? Because I'm the same story except in
Yeah.
PNC. I fall into a PNC claims call center at Farm Bureau of Iowa, which by
Yeah.
all rights should have been a crappy job, and I love it.
It was
So
great.
so so what was it about life that you fell in love with?
So the agents would call and say, I sold this policy 20 years ago, and this guy's coming in 10 minutes. Tell me everything I need to know about the product,
Haven't
right?
looked at it in 20 years.
Yeah,
Oh,
and you're like, and or you get a call. I ended up getting, my licenses so that I could take equity trades, right? It was somebody would call and they would need to untangle a policy from forever ago or simply just figure out what was going on with today. And I think I just really fell in love with the enormous amount of knowledge you had to gather to do your job. You really had to know, you had to know the product, you had to know what those products were built on, all of the writers, which were just, I mean, some of them were nonsense, right? Um, just really pedantic. And I never thought I was that person, but it turns out I love to be a cornucopia of sometimes useless and sometimes useful knowledge. So I'm fun at like Thanksgiving, you know? Um, but it made me really good at answering a phone for
no.
agents.
All right. So you fall in love with
Fall in love with
helping the life agent, okay?
agents,
And you have
absolutely.
significant growth over almost 6 years at MedLife, right? You go
Oh,
from the
true.
phones to an
Yeah.
underwriting assistant, case manager, to an underwriter, to an underwriting team lead.
Yep.
So
So,
and then another year and a half field underwriting and sales. Oh, wow,
yeah.
okay. So LinkedIn is a little bit hard to read. You
Oh,
actually
you're
stayed
having
at
fun
MedLife
with,
for quite
yeah.
a while.
My background.
Continue,
I was
continue.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was actually planning to take my CLU. I was a case manager. I had since moved, I moved back to the Hartford area. I was in Rhode Island when I joined. I used to sit outside of a chief underwriter's office and I was a case manager. My RVP in sales was like, take your CLU, I want you on the team. And I was going to start my CLU, talking to the chief underwriter because we were the last two left in the office. And he was like, absolutely no way are you going into sales. You're going to be an underwriter. And he had me in a program a few weeks later. And that is literally how
fantastic.
I became an underwriter. So Carlo Fusco, who has recently retired, he was at Mass Mutual until very recently. Shout out to him. He's the reason why I'm here today. And I saw him in New York City not that long ago and thanked him. But I had always intended to be in sales, and I ended up in underwriting by accident. And I think I've always had a soft spot for sales. And that it gets even deeper and more gnarly as you go through my career. But ultimately, by the time I got to Ethos and the possibility of working here, I felt like I had been training for it my entire life.
So, 10 years at MetLife in with all sorts of growth.
All sorts of stuff.
Uh, Swiss Re.
Swiss Re the first time. So there's two tours,
Oh,
2003.
okay,
First time through was on the underwriting engine team. They had just launched their very first instance of Magnum, their underwriting rules engine in North
okay,
America, and it was with my last stop at MetLife. That was part of what I did there, and I had such a good time with the team. I decided to join the team at Swiss Re. So I spent a few years kind of like wandering the world and deploying rules engines all over North America
fantastic.
and Southeast Asia.
Uh-huh.
Had a lot of fun with that team. Got the call from MIB and they wanted to launch an
So,
electronic health record.
that move is interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
you're having this awesome life
yeah.
insurance career at some fantastic carriers, and then you get a call from what is MIB? Are they a health record? Is that their main business?
That's such a good question. There's a very similar PNC database that it was private and then it was taken public. I think Verisk owns it now.
Okay, Verisk
Essentially,
owns a lot.
they own everything, I know.
Yes.
So MIB is owned by member companies. It's wholly owned by the industry, and it is a data provider.
Okay.
So if you apply for life insurance or disability,
Okay.
um, there is a chance that something from, some information we find out about you might be coded into the MIB database. Certainly your activity that you have applied is coded.
Okay. Hmm.
And so MIB is a data exchange that is dedicated to helping carriers identify fraud.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. It wasn't as crazy because I thought you had gone from like a successful life career
To Men
to
in Black.
a company. Well, good point. To a company making electronic medical records. I'm like, why would you do that? But
That
I
would be
get
super
it.
weird.
They were serving
Yeah,
the life industry.
they were. And that was it was a very unique opportunity because they they hadn't like they were really trying to branch out of that core product that they had, the core value prop they had. And it was a bit of a blank space. I had joined and they had built the tech but hadn't signed like that first contract yet to actually start bringing data through. So, was super excited to be like, all right, I know exactly where I was when they signed the first data aggregator contract to start bringing electronic health records in, and just kind of went on that ride.
And
Uh,
that year and a half gave you the knowledge you needed for Ethos without knowing it. You weren't preparing for
without
it.
knowing
It just prepared you perfectly for it.
it, like all
Um,
this training, right? And then
so
I went back to Swiss Re.
so yeah, you go back to Swiss Re for a little over 2 years in an
Yeah,
SVP.
yeah.
What was that Swiss Re second
Yeah.
go?
The terribly titled underwriting propositions, it was named by our European partners. And I was like, this doesn't work in the US market. Like, I have to call myself something else. I can't just be propositioning people all over North America. So, so underwriting props, as we used to call it. The idea was to build a small consulting team, which would go into a carrier, do like a 12, 14-week engagement, bring together underwriters, actuaries, data scientists, help a carrier kind of ideate, get something maybe off the ground, see if something was going to work, and then hand it back to them.
Okay.
And it was really hard to, prove that you were making any money, but it was really cool and insightful work, which ultimately got rolled into what became Solicity's solutions arm a
Corporate
few
solutions.
years later. Yeah. I had really, when I went back, so I loved working for big international company. Met was super big, super cool, Swiss Re all over the place. Um, MIB is 140 people. It's like a party guest list. Like you could have that at your house for brunch in the backyard. It was very
Uh,
different culturally.
yeah.
And I was also very excited to go back to Swiss Re for the international travel, and I started basically in March of 2020. So
Oh, that
fun
sucks.
fact, I'm getting
We
grounded.
uh we live in Atlanta, Georgia. We had moved to Columbus, Ohio for two
Oh yeah.
years because my girlfriend wanted to be close to her family. And then I finally convinced her that to come back to Atlanta because I was tired of the airport up there and she was tired of the winter. We got back to Atlanta January of 2020,
Shut-
just in time for the world shutting down. So I totally feel your pain. Okay, so
Yeah.
so so, so you go back to Swiss Re for this role where you're going to be jet setting around the world and COVID hits.
Yes. I'm gonna be
Uh,
propositioning people about underwriting things. And it was a good time. Listen,
okay.
I learned a lot. I got to see a lot. I got to work with a lot of carriers. Um, I got to do a lot of research as well, a lot of learning. So I got to take that work that I was doing at MIB and I got to deepen it. I get to be on the other side of the data aggregation, and really work across data science and actuaries and underwriting to say what's in this stuff, like what is in this new data source, what's in these other data sources that we're using, because we talk about data, right? But if you can't use it, it's not useful. So really got to go very deep on the pain that was happening at our carriers as well. Um, and then realized how much I missed my like origin story of just being on the front lines, you know? Um, so yeah, about 2-ish years through in that role, it transitioned. The organization transitioned. My absolutely brilliant managing director ended up being promoted. She's now in Canada. She's wonderful. And in that reorganization, the opportunity with Ethos came up. And yeah, it just felt like a
And
combination of all these crazy things I had been doing.
I completely feel that. So you go to Ethos in April of 22.
Yeah.
So at that point, the company had been around for a good 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
They
so it wasn't a tiny startup.
No, no, no,
Uh,
not any stretch.
and you come in as the chief underwriter from the beginning. So how big was the company, and kind of what was the? Were you the first chief underwriter?
I was the first chief underwriter. So the company was, when I joined, the company was a little bit over, it was around 350. And that does become relevant because it's part of the journey that was so hard, right, with the organization. There were two people in underwriting. There was myself and basically one other. Everything else at that point was outsourced with a partner. Uh, I it was wild. There was a director of underwriting who was with the company before. I think when he moved on, Ethos was like, we really need to get a chief underwriter in here. Like, we really see the value, we really see the power. We want to bring this all in house. We want to make this a core value prop and really invest and develop in it. And it was like we just lost our guy. So I got to backfill the guy, right?
Yeah.
So I do get to, I have the accolade of being the first chief underwriter at Ethos, and taking that team from the two of us to what it is today.
And you said 60, if I remember
So
correctly.
we're about 60. We're split into a couple of different verticals. So one of Ethos's strengths is that we own all of our own tech.
Mm-hmm.
So, we don't have an outsourced engine, workbench. All of our tech is our own, including all of our underwriting technology. And that's fantastic because if you're using in someone else's engine, you're in line with their other customers and their tech team. We
Of
don't
course.
have that. So sitting underneath my vertical is an underwriting strategy team, which is incredible. And they're really focused on all that work that I was doing at Swiss, actually, right? The design, the research, the optimization of rules. How are you going to move forward with this data? And then on the other side is that kind of classic underwriting production that you would think of. Underwriters who underwrite all day long and they just want to get better at underwriting that guy with cardiac disease
All right. So today, it's
today.
now been about 10 years, almost 10 years for Ethos, and 3 for you at
10
Ethos.
years for Ethos 3 for me. I was
Uh,
like,
Now, am I mistaken, or did you guys at some point carry your own risks? Were you guys a carrier at some
Oh,
point?
that's a great
Uh,
question. No.
okay, so you've always been
Yeah.
a technology distribution and underwriting enabler
Yes.
for the life industry. Okay, so now in my world of PNC, generally carriers own their own underwriting. Now we do
Mhm.
have the MGA model,
Mhm.
and MGAs get a certain level of authority, and then they have to go through the carrier underwriter afterwards. Uh, so is this common within life to have like kind of like an outsourced underwriting team, or is this a very unique thing that Ethos has created?
Yeah, it is a unique model. We work in partnership and concert to make sure that we understand our carrier's philosophy, but we have a tremendous amount of underwriting knowledge as well because of the way that our waterfall works, and we work with multiple carriers. So they have trust in us as well that we're executing on their behalf appropriately. And we're just in regular conversation with them. So they will, work with us in development of their rules, but they come from our basis and our philosophy and our ethos underwriting manual. And then, we continue on with all of that in-house underwriting management, the production resource management, and essentially make sure that they're happy with what they see in terms of the output. So
So
we're really the face to the customer
the
100% at Ethos.
the waterfall piece. You
Yeah.
mentioned that a couple of times. I made a note on it, and I had not asked you about it at the beginning.
Yeah.
So the only time I hear the term waterfall is the old development cycle for applications, right? Which has now moved to
Agile.
agile.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by the waterfall?
It sounds better than flowchart, I guess. So, like if then statements.
Okay.
I mean, really, what we're saying is like we're qualifying the person in field underwriting as we're talking to them in the
Okay.
application process. And so we're interacting with the customer and we're interacting with the data that we're receiving on that customer, and we're determining which product makes the most sense, what product
Mm-hmm.
they actually belong in. So it's if you think about it kind of in that stepped or tiered process where we're really saying you're entering at this point and then you're going to go on this well, it's our choice, but we choose your own adventure to get you to where you need to go.
Okay. Um, so after almost 10 years, I'm guessing that and in life, my understanding is that life is very different than PNC, where life there's not that many life companies. PNC, we have like 3,000 carriers in the US, which is
Yeah.
insane. And now not all of them are big, some of them are teeny, but there's a lot of them. So
True.
nobody serves every carrier.
Yeah.
Now in life with I'm gonna guess 30 or 40 major players at most. I'm guessing after 9 years, at this point, you guys work with most major live players.
That's so one, I believe I'm trying to remember for my Swiss Re days how many life carriers there actually were. You might be surprised how many there are.
Okay.
Many of them are small. A lot of them are tucked under like other life
Oh,
carriers.
okay, okay, okay. Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think if you were to say there's probably tens of really big carriers,
Uh-huh.
really big players, and we're really working with a handful of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So perfect. So for the carriers
Mhm.
you are not yet working with, and then we'll talk about agents, but
Yeah.
for the carriers that you're not yet working with, why should they consider
Yeah.
working with Ethos? And what does the integration look like to bring Ethos on board?
Yeah.
Given that if life is anything like PNC, we've got old systems, we've got AS400s with like
Yeah.
hamsters keeping things
Oh,
running.
listen,
So yes,
not better in
why
life.
should we work with Ethos as a carrier, and what is the integration like?
Yeah. So we can create a really incredible customer and agent experience for carriers, and we can do that and stand it up in a very short amount of time. We are all systems go across that, as I said, that marketing, the intake, the underwriting, out through the administration for the life of the policy. And I think carriers they'll take 8, 9 months to stand up a new piece of tech, right? To stand up a workbench. Like
On
those are all,
on a good year.
yeah, yeah. And those are all things that we have. We can be an incredibly immediate and effective increase in their ability to sell and close a policy.
So handle the administration for the life of the policy. Okay, I keep thinking, you've said that now twice.
Yeah,
I keep thinking about that. Handle the administration for the life of the policy. Does that mean that the policy basically never has to touch my systems and I'm just paying the loss when it happens?
good question. So there is integration. You asked the question about
Yeah,
integration.
yeah,
The heaviest integrations do tend to be on that administrative side. Because we do talk to those administrative systems because we aren't like ultimately a carrier, right? The carrier itself is going to engage at that final claims point,
yeah.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
administration. And every carrier is a little different in the way that they want to engage, right? Some want us to be very heavy-handed and just like we'll see that policy at the end of the line, everything else is yours. And others want to connect and engage on different portions, like let's say reinstatements might be something that they want to be slightly more involved with down the line, or policy changes on an in-force policy might be something that they want to see.
So it's really up to us how much we want to keep.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
yeah. Ultimately,
cool.
the final day is on you. The final day of that policy becomes like on the carrier side, but and in terms of like economy of scale and working with us, you would want to take the most robust solution so that you have the most seamless experience for your customers as well. And they are your customers, but we are the face of those customers. So empowering us to be able to do that work across the board is always recommended.
That is, yeah, that is fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. All right. Okay. What is the revenue model? So like what percentage of my premium are you keeping to manage all of this
No,
or
I'm going to
what
get in so much trouble for talking about that.
uh
So it's gonna,
you can keep it super general or we can even cut
yeah.
this part out if you need to. What is the pricing philosophy?
So I mean, we are a distributor, right? We are a
Uh,
distributor. So ultimately, we would be working with you to determine, and we're a TPA. So we're going to be working with you to determine what does commission structure look like based on product or engagement, based on the volume coming through. And then is there additional TPA agreement work that makes sense? So
okay. So think of us as a distribution expense. We just do a
yeah,
lot more than most of your distributors.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right. Absolutely. Hopefully less heartburn, maybe.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. All right. Uh agency. So independent agents that or brokers. I know the model within life is a little bit different, but brokerages that do a lot of life. Why should they look at engaging with Ethos to place some of their life?
Yeah. So we have a broad palette of product to pick from. That's important. But also
That's a beautiful way to put it.
we have an experience that can let you serve your customer and make the carrier feel good about the fact that you are serving your customer, that can let you serve your customer, that isn't going to make you an enormous amount of money. We're not here to sell $30 million policies. It doesn't mean that you aren't doing financial planning, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have something else in household with that person and you want to get them that 30-year term, you want to get them that 10-year term, or you want to get them that IUL product, right? And you want to get it to them very quickly and very easily. And that's something that we can serve up. And we can do that in a really full stack engaged way. So it is we've been talking about serving the middle market for like what feels like 1,000 years, to the point where I'm like, no, if the first person who says middle market, I'm going like full Pee-wee's Playhouse on them, right? Like, don't talk to me about like the insurance gap, but it's still there. It's still there. And we
In
can have
life, I mean it's bad in PNC. It's
you.
horrific in life.
It's crazy. And it shouldn't be so resource intense and expensive for a life agent to sell a term policy, right? They shouldn't lose a ton of money on that.
It should be it
Let's
it it,
get it
it,
done.
it should be, hey Alexa,
I know. Like, let's
uh,
get the one call closed, right? That's
30,
what we
30,
want.
30, no, hey Alexa, 41-year-old female who doesn't smoke, zip code 30308, 300,000 in coverage, 20-year term.
Go.
And done, right? Like why
Go.
do we make it hard?
I know. Authorized, like you're authorized to search data on this person, give me an offer back. And in the best case scenario, we can get you an offer back in a handful of minutes, right? And that person can be paid and ready to go. And we are pushing all the time to make that experience better and better. But you're right. It's too A lot of people don't get served in the way that they should get served because it's just like, as an agent, you really going to deal with that? Probably
and
not.
and life is painful in the best of circumstances.
Yeah.
Right, so in the best of circumstances, like with the very best technology, and a 26-year-old buying 30-year term, or let's call it 10-year term, like where you have a teeny chance of dying, uh they still have to think about their death in order to buy that policy, right? In order to go get that
Crap
quote.
conversation. It's a
So
crap conversation.
so I actually had a family member who sold life successfully. His name was Johnny, and a second cousin, and Johnny used to ask uh prospects, name, okay, sex, date of birth, date of death, and then he would be quiet. And then when they look confused, he would go into a quick spiel that I did not memorize, and he's no longer around to ask him, about how we just don't know. That's why you need life insurance. And and
Oh,
he, and he sold a ton of life insurance. He was very
that's
successful selling
good,
life
right?
insurance.
Yeah,
But yes, life requires the client to think about their death.
it does. It
So it
requires
is never a pleasant situation.
It's not. I mean, this is like, the studies where they were talking getting people to save more for retirement by showing them a picture of themselves, like aged 40 years, right? People tend to save more when they're like, oh, I actually am going to get old. Unfortunately, talking about the fact that this is a product you're never going to use
Mm-hmm.
it's not a
No,
fun
we
conversation.
we, 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 we we can add some endorsements, right? In,
We
in PNC, we
can.
call them
We
endorsements,
have
riders, or
accelerated
whatever you guys
riders,
call
we've got
them.
living benefits.
Exactly. We,
We
we, we,
might
we
use
living benefits. I like that one.
that.
We
Yeah.
can add some living benefits that add a little bit of cost, but
It's still not
psychologically make you
fun.
feel better that you might
Right.
someday get something out of it.
Well,
Uh,
but if
it's
that
still
those
not
kick
fun.
in, right, that's a whole other conversation too. So I know it's not fun to talk about somebody being in a position where they need to access their life insurance. It really isn't, but it's so necessary. It's often why the trigger for people to come in and buy insurance is losing somebody in that's close to them, right? That's a life event. So maybe they've had a child, they've bought a house, but often it's like they know a guy whose mom died or sister died,
Left them in
and
trouble.
yeah, and they just
Hmm.
threw money into a GoFundMe. Like they don't like that brings it home for people in a different way. It's super hard to reach people who aren't thinking about that. And it's really hard to reach people when they should be buying policies, like when they're 25 and they're super young and healthy and it's cheap. And the last
Hmm.
thing they think is they're going to die ever, right?
Hmm.
I know I was immortal until I was like
Oh,
33.
of course, yeah. All right. So I'm always asking, it's kind of my one of my last questions, or my last question. I'm always asking, and in this case, there might not be a good answer, because often I'm talking to like fairly early stage insurtechs. You
Yeah.
guys are very mature at this point. But what is in the development pipeline? So what is new coming down the development pipeline that you can already talk about for the rest of 2025 you're excited about?
Yeah, I can tell you that we have more products coming on, more complicated products coming on that I think are going to reach into the market, and I think they're going to be really exciting for people. We are, more of the complicated insurance product sales. We kind of think maybe we don't want to go direct with this, or we can't leave somebody alone. I think we're looking at how do we create an experience where you can have, the comfort and knowledge of an advisor, but you don't have to have that feeling of like this person is haranguing me to buy something I don't want. right? So
which the life industry is horrific about.
we're like,
Horrific.
it's like used car salesman and then like life insurance. Hello.
I should include the how do I put it?
It's like the
Uh
trust occupation matrix.
it, I should, if I was loss ratio and good at video editing, I would bring in the little clip from Groundhog Day,
Oh God.
Ned Ryerson, right?
Oh,
Because that is what people think of our industry,
I know.
and it's you guys' fault. And by you guys, I mean the traditional life guys from the '90s kind of thing. We've gotten better, but yes, it like just above used car salesman,
I
exactly,
know that
exactly, and
our goal is to operate with transparency and
good.
offer really great, robust products, right? And we have more robust products coming down the pipeline that I'm very excited about. We're here to cover. We want to cover a million lives, right? We want to get there. We want to do it. So
Fantastic, fantastic. Nichole, it's been a pleasure. It's been super interesting. Learned a lot about life today. And uh, yeah, I love the passion. I
good.
love the passion for what you're
I
doing.
I
The
love
life
insurance.
side historically has been behind PNC. So this
Sure.
is this is like technology in like
True.
consumers' lives, technology in your work lives, technology in financial services, technology in insurance. Like the chart keeps going further, right? And within the bad world of insurance, like life is even worse than
I
PNC, right?
know. I've always
Uh,
been so jealous of PNC,
so it is good to see that there are some efforts out there on the life side. And 9 years is
You've been
incredible for an
around.
insure tech. So
Yeah.
congratulations on the
Thank you.
success. And excited to see you guys continue to improve one of the most old-fashioned sides of our industry, and such important, so important.
Very noble product, very noble work, right? I have always said, with all of my knowledge of health data, I would never cross into health, right? But I would stay in life insurance forever. It's an incredible product, and we're running at it full speed, right? We want to cover as many people as we possibly can. And I hate to say close the insurance gap, but let's do it. Let's
I mean,
say it.
it's
It's
yes,
true.
it's a cliche,
It,
and it is important.
it's
Uh,
super.
Thank you so much for your time today. When this goes live, I will
Um,
tag both you and the company on LinkedIn.
okay.
And yeah, look forward to see you out there on the road.
It was a pleasure.